Hi, welcome to On This Day in Tudor History with me, Claire Ridgway, author of On This Day in Tudor History. Now, is it going to be something good or bad today? Well, something bad, unfortunately. For on this day in history, 1456, Edmund Tudor, 1st Earl of Richmond, died from the plague at Carmarthen Castle in Wales. Now, you might be thinking that 1456 isn't in the Tudor period, so what on earth am I talking about? And you're right, it was in the reign of King Henry VI, who wasn't a Tudor at all. But obviously, Edmund Tudor was a Tudor, and he was the father of King Henry VII, the first of the Tudor monarchs. So it does tie in with the Tudors. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about King Henry VII's father. Edmund Tudor was the eldest son of Owen Tudor and Catherine of Valois. And Catherine of Valois was the widow of King Henry V and the mother of King Henry VI. Edmund was born in around 1430 in Much Haddam in the county of Hertfordshire. And he's actually sometimes known as Edmund of Haddam. He was made Earl of Richmond by his half-brother, King Henry VI, on the 23rd of November 1452, and his younger brother, Jasper, was made Earl of Pembroke. The brothers were knighted on the 5th of January 1453, and in March 1453, at the Reading Parliament, they received recognition as the King's true and legitimate brothers. On the 24th of March 1453, Henry VI granted the wardship and marriage of 10-year-old Lady Margaret Beaufort, a lady you might have heard of, to the brothers Edmund and Jasper. So they had her wardship. They were sort of in control of her and her assets. Now, Margaret was the daughter and heir of John Beaufort, Duke of Somerset, and a direct descendant of John of Gaunt, Duke of Lancaster. By November 1455, Edmund had married the now 12-year-old Margaret and had moved to southwest Wales, where by August 1456, after a conflict with Griffith ap Nicholas, he'd taken control of Carmarthen Castle and thereby captured the centre of royal government in the region on behalf of the king. A Yorkist force of 2,000 men, led by Sir William Herbert and Sir Walter Devereux, then marched on Carmarthen. They successfully seized the castle and Edmund was imprisoned. Edmund died at Carmarthen Castle from the plague on this day in history, the 1st of November 1456. He was aged about 26. His remains were buried at the Monastery of Greyfriars in Carmarthen, but his remains were moved to St David's Cathedral on the orders of his grandson, King Henry VIII, after the dissolution of the monastery. His elaborate tomb can still be seen today in the middle of the high altar, although his effigy and other decorations were removed during the Civil War in the 17th century. His elegy was written by Lewis Glyn Cothi, the Welsh poet. Edmund's widow, Margaret, was 6 months pregnant when he died. She gave birth at her brother-in-law's home of Pembroke Castle on the 28th of January 1457. The baby was a boy, a son who would, of course, become King Henry VII. So a bad day for Edmund Tudor on this day in history, but I'll leave you on the good that he left behind a pregnant widow who gave birth to a boy who would become King Henry VII, a king who would start the Tudor dynasty. You can subscribe to this channel by clicking round about there. You can hit the bell to be notified as videos go live, and you can, of course, give me a like as well. I really appreciate you following what I do, and I'll be back tomorrow with another Tudor history event for you then. See you. Bye-bye.